we're going to start off this conversation with a little more of a historical and global view. Tom Gellrich has joined us today, and he's going to give us a little overview of the overall outgrowth of petrochemicals, what it's meant for not just the United States, but for the world. Tom's got a real unique background. So with this moment, I'm going to hand it over to Tom. Tom, please take it away, sir.
Thank you. Matt? The shale gas industry has been very important and has changed the chemical industry. I call them both revolutions. Next. The first revolution we lived through, and that was the OPEC energy embargo. And that changed everything, especially in manufacturing. A short while after the second embargo, I started working for a small company you never heard of called Exxon, designing new ethane crackers. We were designing them for Baytown, Texas. We very quickly shifted our efforts to Al Jabal, Saudi Arabia, a small town, fishing town of 3,000 on the Red Sea. And that facility had nothing. And the only reason we were there was because of low-cost energy and feedstock, or the raw materials in order to make chemicals. And now on to the shale gas revolution. We've seen natural gas prices drop very dramatically due to advancements in technology. And this has really been truly remarkable. The ocean barrier, i.e., being able to ship our natural gas overseas, creates a barrier because it's very costly, because you have to compress the natural gas and you have to get it to cryogenic minus 260 degrees F temperatures. And that's expensive. So the energy savings remains here for US manufacturers. And that's important for energy intensive businesses like steel or glass. Next. The chemical industry, next, uses fuel and energy, next, as the key cost drivers for producing chemicals. In fact, 80% of the cost of chemicals is made up of these two components. So you can see how low prices directly impact the chemical industry. And with that, the chemical industry has undergone an unprecedented investment boom. Next. Here are some of the numbers. I can't even wrap my head around this. $180 billion in capital investment has been announced. But more importantly than some of these, let me put it all in perspective. Next. More than 50% of all manufacturing investment in capital equipment is in the chemical industry today. People, when they think about investing in manufacturing, they think about Tesla gigafactories or Boeing jet factories or Intel computer chip factories. They don't even add up in total close to what is being spent right now in the chemical industry. And 70% of that investment is by foreign companies. The reason why? Well, they know that they have to be present in the US if they're going to participate in global markets. And so the investment spending continues. Next. And one of the reasons why it continues and is increasingly more important is that chemicals are replacing other materials. When you think about it, some of these things didn't exist 20 years ago. Automobiles being assembled with adhesives instead of welding. Airplanes that are made primarily out of plastic instead of aluminum. Large screen TVs with no glass and very limited material. Next. The chemical industry impacts 98% of all manufacturing. So this is everywhere. It's not in just one niche area. It, in fact, impacts our lives on a daily basis. Next. Another reason why chemicals are increasing in importance is that as the developing world middle class in countries with populations in the billions, like China and India, is created due to their economic growth, they'll start wanting to have the same things we have: the toothbrushes, the large screen TVs, the cars, and so on. And their consumption of chemicals, in this case plastics, will grow dramatically. China's already part of the way there. Their consumption is about 1/3 of the US. India is a little bit further behind, with 1/3 the consumption of China. But you can see what the effect will be when these countries grow their middle class. Next, I want to talk a little bit about what's relevant to all of us right now. That is COVID-19. The front line of defense for COVID-19 is chemicals. This is something that's not really covered in the media. When you think about it, soap, hand sanitizer, disinfectants, the protective suits, the ventilators, the masks, the test kits, syringes, and so on, the chemical content of those items is 75%. So chemicals are on the front line of defense. And many of these products, such as the protective suits, couldn't be made with natural fibers, as they wouldn't prevent the transmission of the virus. So they're absolutely critical in what's going on right now. Next. And it's also changing the way we think about single-use plastics. Single-use plastics have been an item that's getting banned left and right globally, but it's critical in the fight for COVID-19. We're using it in the medical setting to protect sanitized equipment, to cover it, to prevent the COVID-19 from being present on the surfaces. And then we're taking contaminated materials and encapsulating them in plastic bags. If we didn't have plastic bags, we wouldn't have those type of controls. And now they're being required to protect workers. At least in my area, supermarkets are banning the use of reusable bags as they're a source of transmission. And our garbage pickup will only accept plastic bags. No more cardboard containers, no more items that are not wrapped up in plastic. It's remarkable how COVID-19 has changed our perception. And one area that I've been following very closely is 3D printing. On the left, you see the number of 3D printers in Europe by one 3D printer manufacturer. There's quite a lot. And when you think about 3D printers, everybody thinks about them as, an individual printer somebody might have in their house or school, and that's true. But there's also these huge 3D printer farms. This one in the picture is more than 200 3D printers. So they have a rapid ability to ramp up production of parts, which are needed critically and quickly, and they're located in metropolitan areas where the impact of COVID-19 is the worst. Next. And here are a couple 3D printer parts. The one on the left is oxygen valve. It's a moving part. And the one on the right is a respirator, a new design, 3D printed. So, as you can see, the shale gas revolution has influenced the chemical industry, and the revolution's taking place now. And it's very topical with COVID-19. With that, I'd like to turn it back to George, but be available for questions later.
Tom, I thank you. I appreciate your insights. And again, the history that you bring to understanding how so much was pushed overseas due to cheap energy costs and cheap labor, and your visits to Saudi Arabia. But today, we understand that we can't single source all of our chemicals from one region for multiple reasons, terrorism being one of the number one reasons. But now you've got a pandemic where now we're reliant on a certain region, if it's China, for medical supplies. We need to be thinking more broadly and think about the opportunity that we have to onshore these chemical manufacturers, these plastics opportunities. And the idea that when you bring them here to the United States, you know, someone like Greg Kozera can share with us that it doesn't make sense to also concentrate them in one particular area, whether they be the Gulf Coast.